I probably wouldn't be sitting here today without mentorship. So I had, 3 high school coaches that served as early mentors. And then after coaching a few years, then Coach Tom Tellez was my main mentor, along with Victor Lopez, a coach at Rice, Bjorn Lundberg, a throws coach in Sweden. So those were, instrumental to my understanding and progression as a coach.
Mentorship has been really important in my career. I was lucky enough to meet Dan Pfaff pretty early on in my career. And essentially, he just helped to illuminate a path for me, not by telling me what to do, but by showing me what could be done. And this was the key to everything that happened for me over the next 20 years.
I was a bit of a chicken when it came to approaching the big names early in my career, and I had opportunities to really kind of, dig into people like Schmidt-Bleicher and Pavo Comey, and they're open to invite. They don't really mean it. And those of us that know Dan Pfaff is that those people that seem like these giants of our industry actually do mean it. They're really authentic in that offer, and you can follow them up. So I've become braver at that as I got older. But early in my career, I didn't really pursue like those giants of industry as much, and a lot of my learning came from peer-to-peer mentorship.
A big part of mentorship is speeding up the learning curve and eliminating a lot of the icebergs and landmines that young coaches, encounter. So learning what the essentials were, the first principles, heuristics, management, how to error detect and correct, how to use feedback and debrief process, interpersonal skills, and just in general, the pedagogy, the art of teaching. There's no way you can know everything. So build a network of people that you can turn to when you don't know what to do or how to do it.
Well, I mean, this kind of depends on what you see as the role of a mentor. Today, it is so much about helping younger coaches sort through the information. The first step of a good mentor is to be a good curator. But when I was a developing coach, I wasn't really challenged by curation issues. I didn't need anyone to help me sort out the good stuff from the bad stuff, because it just wasn't as much stuff. For me, the role of a mentor in the traditional sense of a definition was twofold. Number one, showing me what I needed to be doing. So basically to identify the destination. And number two, point me in the right direction. So I'm at least traveling towards my destination. The role of the mentor is not to provide the roadmap per se. It's just to set the destination and point us in the right direction. The rest of it is up to us as mentees. So in that sense, Dan Pfaff for me was the perfect mentor. He wasn't with me every day. I'd see Dan, once a year or so for a week and talk to him for an hour every month. I had to rely on myself to set the map. I'd talk to him on the phone from time to time and visit him every year, like I said, just to make sure I was still traveling in the right direction. But everything else was up to me.
It's been really when I've had like a case study or a particular problem that I'm working with through an athlete. Even quite recently with my skiing, Olympic ski athletes, working on their starts and being able to, speak to someone like Dan, who incredibly has worked with the highest level Olympic skiers, with his background, and draw from his knowledge on that and think things through. And really what was great about it was that ability to look at the physics of track and field and have him walk me through how that is transferable and translatable to the mechanics of the start of a skier.
I was always raised that you pass on what you receive. And there's an old German parable: for a lake to remain clean and pristine, you need inflow and outflow. And that always was in the background of my mind, that if I smothered knowledge, it would die or the lake would silt up. So it was always important to pay back or pay ahead, if you will, in many instances. And I really don't understand the isolationist hermit. I've got a secret mindset. I've been in sport business for 50 years, and I've yet to find a secret sauce.
Well, being a mentor to others is really important to me now, especially in the sort of the third of my coaching career. I'm kind of on the downside of my coaching career now. Been in it for, over 25 years. The way in which I sort of organize it in my brain is the first third of my coaching career was about me as a coach. I was just trying to figure out how to coach. So it was all about me. It's all about, getting coaching knowledge and understanding, how to coach better. The middle third was about the athletes. It was still about me, but it was more about the athletes at this point. So relatively, the performance of the athletes was more important than me learning how to coach better. Obviously, they go hand in hand, but it became less about me and more about the athletes. The third part of my coaching career, this sort of final part, is now about the coaching profession. I'm trying to give back to an entire profession, to other coaches, coaches. And that's what we're trying to do here with Altis, right? Is just to try to positively affect the sport performance industry, as well as the coaching profession as a whole.
Being a mentor to others, I get so much satisfaction out of seeing other people grow. And, and maybe somewhat inadvertently selfish as well. It helps me to continue to grow. You get great questions, great insights, even the last few weeks, some of the younger athletes or coaches that I've been speaking to, different generational perspectives. Sometimes it gets me to stop and think about my own approaches. But I really love the way in which my experiences can be shared, and principles from those help other people solve their problems.
In a perfect world, I think the thing that's really lacking in most internships or mentorships is what we see in the building trades. It's called an apprenticeship, where you work side by side with master craftsmen. And, that's really hard to do. A lot of times an intern or mentor ends up being a go-for-all or a fill-in guy or, a clock puncher or something like that. They really don't experience the depth and breadth of the craft. So that's the one thing that we do at Altis with internships, and I try to do in mentorships, is try to work side by side, with the coach in kind of an apprenticeship type manner.
A good mentor is engaged in the process of mentorship. He or she understands that learning requires intention from both the mentor and the mentee. To get the best out of a mentorship, the mentee must lead the process, i.e., come with problems and questions. But that doesn't mean that the mentor is a passive participant. Often the mentee won't have enough experience to know what the questions or the problems are yet, or how to ask them. And this is where a good mentor, can get actively involved in the curriculum of the mentorship process. Secondly, a good mentor understands the value of conversations, stories, and examples. Mentorship isn't simply providing the background information. It's about putting that information into context so that the mentee can apply it within their own coaching environments. And finally, mentorship must be personalized. Yes, many of the problems and questions that coaches will have will be common, and that this is where a good set curriculum can come in. But outside of these commonalities, each coach will have their own individual set of problems and questions. That is why it is so important that a good mentor has a good depth and breadth of experience, so they can help with a multitude of different problems from a variety of different environments.
But I think there's different prongs to it, and to get the best out of a mentorship program or a mentor, I think time has to be invested. You need to ensure that you are doing some work before you turn up for that session. And the times when I've been the mentor and people haven't done that work, it's pretty clear in the first 5 to 10 minutes. And it's like, hey, let's hang on here a second. Get the biggest return on investment. Look, you can go and spend £1,000, pounds on a conference, go and listen to it, and you've got not, okay, you're choosing to go, but you haven't got the most control over what you're getting from it. I think the difference with a mentorship program or working with a mentor is that you can really steer the ship. You can decide what ports you're going to go to and what things you're going to go and, get and trade. And that, for me, really gives you a 100% return on your investment in your development and your education.